Good evening. I am Roberto Santamaria, your host this evening for Nantucket Pulse programming made possible by Nantucket Cottage Hospital's Community Health Initiative. This is a special edition of the Nantucket Pulse program that will air weekly covering the coronavirus impacts for the island and will provide urgent updates as they unfold. We are recording this episode at 9 a.m. on Friday, May 8th. Later in the show, I will welcome the Public Information Officer for Nantucket Cottage Hospital, Jason Graziadei, and special guest, Wendy Hudson. Wendy is currently serving on the Governor's Reopening Advisory Council, helping the Commonwealth to release a reopening plan on May 18th. Let's begin by reviewing the decisions made by the Nantucket Select Board and Board of Health this last week. Nantucket has not only been an outlier on its ability to crush the spread of COVID-19 here, but also in its business closure orders, some of which have been more restrictive than those in most other towns in Massachusetts. The much debated construction and landscaping moratoriums originally halted all non-emergency projects in these industries. Of the 13 confirmed cases of COVID-19 on the island, 5 of them were in construction workers and other laborers. The first phase of the Back to Work plan on April 21st allowed up to 4 construction workers and up to 2 landscape workers on a site at a time, and only 1 person per traveling vehicle. It still did not classify these industries as essential services like the Commonwealth has. So, only certain construction projects were permitted to resume. Furthermore, every construction project had to have received the permit before March 20th, 2020 in order to resume. Now, the Board of Health has crafted a second phase of the Back to Work plan that coincides more closely with the Commonwealth's policies regarding landscaping and construction, named Order Number 8. It will allow all construction projects with up to 6 workers on a site concurrently. This order allows up to 2 people in a truck and offers companies the opportunity to petition for a higher worker limit on a case-by-case basis. Job sites with single workers no longer have to register with the town agencies. Covenant home construction can resume under Order Number 8, whereas it was currently prohibited. Nantucket Building Commissioner Paul Murphy applauds the end of restrictions to the types of construction projects allowed. He said to the Board of Health, and I quote, "What's being allowed in the governor's order is being interpreted broadly and not narrowly," unquote. He argued that if the town was supposed to determine which projects were allowed, the Commonwealth would have provided detailed instructions. He referred to his contacts in Falmouth and Dartmouth, both of which are permitting all types of construction from frame to finish. Order Number 8 is expected to be released by Monday, May 11th, and Order Number 9 is Phase 2 for landscaping and will be released at that point too. Translations will be provided in Spanish. The Select Board has been pondering the economic, social, and medical detriments of COVID-19 restrictions. There have been anecdotal reports of domestic abuse and substance abuse rising. The Nantucket Food Pantry is seeing requests for food assistance at levels 8 times higher than normal. Rental assistance requests are about 4 times the normal amount. These secondary impacts provide compelling information that the Select Board is weighing against the need to flatten the curve of COVID-19's spread. Along with my department, we are consulting studies, talking to other towns, and considering the advice of academic institutions. The long-term plan remains uncertain, especially for the tourist industry. The question of self-quarantine for out-of-state travelers becomes tricky when applied to tourists visiting the island for a few days. To this question, Select Board Chair Dawn Hill Holdgate said,
"In regard to the 14-day quarantine in crossing town lines via the ferry, I find it an infeasible proposition to expect that until the virus is eradicated by a vaccine, that any one of us would have to self-isolate for that length of time by doing normal errands and work activities that bring us to cross over. In regard to the tourism industry, we're waiting on the governor's guidance that will come out on May 18th per Wendy Hudson, and that will address the accommodations, restaurants, retail, and so forth, where we are currently aligned with the governor's orders.
Janet Schulte, Director of Culture and Tourism for the island, has said that a survey to island businesses shows 89% of respondents expect to lose at least 25% of their revenue through June. What is certain is that the town will not impose rules that are less strict than the Commonwealth's. As a reminder, the Massachusetts Stay-at-Home Advisory is set to expire on May 18th. The financial impact on the town's finances may be in the level of millions of dollars. In order to prepare, Director of Municipal Finance Brian Turbett has prepared several projected town budgets for 2021 that assume different levels of decreases in income. The largest source of income from the town by far is property taxes, and it is not expected to decrease. However, sources at the next highest levels might. For example, Mr. Turbett is looking at 30%, 40%, and 60% and even higher decreases in motor vehicle excise tax, room excise taxes. The difference between the highest estimate and the lowest estimate is about $6 million of income. The town does have some financial cushions. Moody's has upheld the town's AAA credit rating. The town does have some free cash to use, and it can skip contributing to the other post-employment benefits trust fund for 1 year without a credit rating downgrade, and it can save an estimated $400,000 by not filling currently empty positions. The school district also is planning for various levels of decreased funding. They have 3 budgets. The first assumes a decrease of $300,000. They can mitigate its effects by retiring teachers and replacing them with new, less expensive teachers, as well as not filling unnecessary staff vacancies. The next level assumes a $500,000 decrease and entails more significant cuts in staffing. The last level is considered catastrophic and assumes a $1 million loss in funding. There would be substantial staff cuts to handle that decrease in funding. The Commonwealth has just relaxed its closure policy for non-essential retailers. Now, up to 3 employees for businesses 10,000 square feet and smaller may go to the store to package, ship, and/or deliver orders. All deliveries must be no contact, so a local business could drop off an item at a customer's porch, mailbox, and so on. All employees must stay 6 feet apart and wear masks. Also, the store must have easily accessible hand sanitizers and hand washing facilities. No sick employee should come to work, and everyone should check his or her temperature. If it is above 100 degrees, that employee should stay home. If you're a non-essential business does not have a brick and mortar store, and all workers can maintain social distancing, then it may continue operations. The Commonwealth has created a reopening advisory board with 17 members from across Massachusetts with 2 Nantucketers. They are Linda Markham, the president of Cape Air, and Wendy Hudson, co-founder of Cisco Breweries and owner of Nantucket Book Partners. They have discussed cleaning procedures, industry-specific protocols, social distancing, personal protective equipment, and needs from the Commonwealth, and many other topics with 23 different industry associations and community coalitions. These organizations represent over 100,000 businesses and over 1.4 million workers in Massachusetts. They include businesses in retail, high-tech, life sciences, travel, tourism, restaurants, banking, and construction. They also include the Black Economic Council and the Latino Chamber of Commerce. Next week, the list will include museums, cultural institutions, gaming businesses, and sports organizations. A common theme from these diverse voices is the need for childcare and transportation infrastructure in order to support the return of their workers. The advisory board's work will help craft the phased reopening plan that comes out on May 18th. We are happy to be joined by Wendy Hudson, who serves on this board. Wendy has served on commissions for the Commonwealth before, including the Economic Development Commission and Rural Policy Advisory Commission. Wendy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Roberto. I mean, it's always such a loaded question these days, isn't it? I'm great. Oh. And I'm also in a panic,
As great as we can be. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the questions. One of the questions that's been on a lot of people's minds is, what are the primary concerns of the businesses that you're hearing from?
So as you say, this is the Baker-Polito administration's reopening advisory board. It's 17 people. I landed there because I've been involved with their Economic Development Commission over the summer and fall. So I kind of knew what to expect, that the group is very advisory and the staff is really the ones crafting the work. So I like to get that straight. But the concerns are very much, I guess, a sense of urgency to get back going, but safely, very balanced. Like everything we're hearing on Nantucket, it's the same kind of at the bigger level. We've been hearing, I think, so far about 40 different trade groups, and we've got another loaded 3 or 4 days coming up Everything from the medical community, unions, large banking, large commercial real estate, small business. It runs the gamut, which is great. There are a lot of common concerns, but everybody wants to get back to normal slowly, or safely, cautiously.
So is there like an overarching thing that they want the Commonwealth to do, that these businesses are asking you about the Commonwealth and what they want you to do?
Yeah, definitely there's just a hunger for clear guidelines, for it to follow CDC data, for things to progress according to, safe metrics that are set. It's interesting to see kind of what's happening around the country, because there is a difference, I think, from what we hear in Massachusetts, maybe from what we're seeing on TV in some other places regarding science, for example, and the need to follow CDC guidelines. That's pretty timely right now. But the community, or the groups, want clear guidelines. There's a lot of concerns about certain specific, they always say enablers, a few conditions for reopening that must be set. Something I haven't talked about, I didn't mention on the select board the other day, was the liability that might come across, like if somebody were to fall sick. And so far we haven't had too much of a litigious society around this. People understand that it's, strange times, but you can kind of imagine that coming forward. Somebody gets sick, somebody sues an employee, an employer. That's a really big concern.
I can imagine. Are there any Nantucket specific concerns that you've been able to bring up?
Definitely the seasonality. Of course, the short, compressed timeline that we're under, and just the long-lasting impact that's going to have throughout all of next winter. So some of these temporary economic fixes that are helping people, the incentive checks, things like that expire July 31st. It doesn't help if people are closed and can't make their money through July, for next winter. So that's definitely the Cape and Islands, the Berkshires, like kind of rural communities that have a lot of tourism and have been incredibly impacted, are very much waving that flag that it's critical to salvage what we can of the summer. Trust people to be safe and use common sense.
And you bring up a good point, actually, about each individual town. I heard the announcement last night or this morning that Cape Cod is actually doing their own advisory board as well. So are the businesses concerned about having more than 250 towns making their own rules and regulations?
Yes, and I will say that there is a strong recognition at in this commission, or at least in the administration, that would be a disaster. In fact, more than even just letting it go down to the town level, Massachusetts is trying to work with New England and, the 7-state, I think it is, I don't know if they have a name for that coalition, because there's recognition. If like one state opens, it's so easy to drive in New England if you want to go to the beach, and Rhode Island is open and Massachusetts isn't, it would put an incredible pressure. I'm not saying that it's happening perfectly and coordinatedly right now, but that's the goal. And the same with towns, same with beaches on the Cape. Like it has to be sort of spread out. Otherwise, it's going to be too much for one place. The local control, of course, if there's a reason, then yes. But until there is a reason, I think there's a huge push to be uniform.
And then just one last question for the rest of the audience. One of the big ones that's coming out right now is, have you heard of any useful strategies for small businesses that are struggling to survive during this period, especially anything that's Nantucket specific?
That's a good question. Where I thought you were going to go was, how to prepare and be safe. And I think that is pretty widely covered. I know my staff isn't all that excited to even deal with the public, and the cleaning protocols might be really onerous. So, as long as we can kind of make that work, I think a lot of stores will do that. A huge push toward digital. I know I did. I scrambled when I was like, okay, an owner can fulfill online orders, then I better set up a website. And I did that for Bookworks really quickly, and it was easy. And so I sort of suggest people look at that if they haven't yet, because you can supplement your bottom line. Not that it replaces, don't get me wrong, it's a drop in the bucket, but creative thinking of what's going to carry us forward would be helpful. And the guidelines that are going to be coming out around, every industry sector, there's good examples online. I mentioned Ohio the other day. There's a lot of other states. New York released its plan just a couple days ago. So I think looking to what other states have issued, I think Massachusetts will be very much in line with that. What this board has not done is kind of answer another part of, excuse me, your question, which is sort of the economic development piece, going forward and what kind of jobs we might have. And we haven't heard like a desperation and really an economic story, which is good and appropriate for this short term. But I know that's going to be a giant piece going forward. And we'll all need our brains on that one too, once we get past the physical health that you can help us, help guide us toward in all of our businesses. I
know we have a group here working on it hard as well. And then you at the state, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of minds. Well, Wendy, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now I'd like to introduce Jason Graziadei from the Nantucket Cottage Hospital. Jason, take it away.
Good evening. I'm Jason Graziadei, the Public Information Officer for Nantucket Cottage Hospital. First, I want to thank the community for all its support over the last 2 months as we've actively responded to the coronavirus pandemic. We are all so appreciative of the many gifts, meals, and other gestures of goodwill that we have received. So again, thank you. Now I want to share some information about testing for COVID-19. Infection control experts have been collaborating with colleagues across our system at Partners Healthcare to continually evaluate and update our COVID-19 testing criteria based on an assessment of clinical priorities and our testing capacity. I'm happy to share today that the testing criteria at our drive-through COVID-19 evaluation site at the main entrance of Nantucket Cottage Hospital have been expanded to include all patients with active COVID-19 symptoms. The new criteria to be tested include at least one of the following signs or symptoms consistent with a viral respiratory syndrome. 1, subjective or documented fever. 2, new sore throat. 3, new cough. 4, new runny nose or nasal congestion. 5, new shortness of breath. 6, new muscle aches. And 7, a new loss of sense of smell. As testing was implemented in the early phases of our coronavirus response, the criteria was extremely focused on high-risk patients and capacity was more limited. So some patients who were evaluated did not meet the earlier criteria and were not tested. With the criteria now expanded, as I just noted, we are encouraging anyone with one or more of these symptoms to come to our drive-thru for an evaluation by our clinical team. There is no need to call ahead. On another note, we want to also emphasize to the community that the hospital is open, safe, and ready to provide care for COVID-19 and non-COVID-19 medical issues. Like other hospitals, we have seen significant decreases in patients coming in for things like heart attacks, strokes, and other medical issues. Nantucket Cottage Hospital has taken numerous measures to ensure it is safe for all patients to come to the hospital for their care. In the ER, we have designated a high-risk zone for confirmed COVID patients or patients under investigation for COVID-19, while those who are coming in for other health issues are isolated from them in a separate area of the ER, preventing any cross-contamination. So please do not delay care or ignore a pressing health issue. NCH is open, safe, and ready to care for you. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Nantucket's Acts of Kindness. Bill Hunk, a local photographer, is doing Nantucket's porch portraits, and we'll see a lot of his work shortly.
How do I think COVID has impacted the community? When I'm out photographing the families, I'm on my bike, I'm going all over this island, and it's a ghost town. Just seeing no traffic, no people, nothing going on. It's surreal. It's like we're in the Twilight Zone.
On Monday, March 23rd at 5 p.m., Nantucket's stay-at-home order went into effect because of the coronavirus pandemic.
As most of you know, the number of reported cases has seen a significant uptick in the United States and Massachusetts.
Spring and summer events have been canceled, and most businesses have been forced to close their doors. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way of living for many on Nantucket. As the community adapts to this new normal of social distancing, islanders have to get creative on how to stay connected during these challenging times. One person taking on this challenge is photographer Bill Honk, and he is doing it one family portrait at a time. Bill has been a Nantucket resident for over 10 years, and it was its beauty that made him want to be a full-time photographer.
Roxy, what's up? There we go. Good
Since
job,
the
Roxy.
pandemic, he has started the Nantucket Portrait Project.
Everyone look right at me.
Inspired by the Front Steps Project created by Cara Sulia and Kristen Collins. The goal is to highlight the faces of the community during a time when people don't have a chance to see each other face to face.
I thought that was a fantastic idea, and I needed something to get me out of the house, get my eyes off the news. So I made a website and I put it out there hoping that families would want to participate, and I've gotten fantastic feedback from everyone in this community, and it's really inspired me to keep going and doing as much as I can. I decided to do this project not only as a way to help bring the families on this island together virtually, but I really think that these photos are really important to document the historical value of what we're all going through.
My name is Jason Bridges, and this is my wife Courtney Bridges, and this is Eloise Bridges, she's 2. I wanted to participate in this project because I thought it was a really creative and safe way to get families out of the house to think creatively, and it's going to go online, it's going to connect people, and anything that we can do that's positive, that helps build relationships and connects people in this new normal, I want to support 100%. The night before that Bill was coming over to shoot, we thought, we should try, how do we represent what's really going on in our kind of crazy household right now? So we came up with some different ideas, and in the morning of, we said, well, let's show that you're working every morning. Like Courtney is working every morning. I'm with Eloise. I'm, doing the coffee thing, drinking coffee. We're trying to potty train. Like it's a crazy household. Like we're very lucky and fortunate because we're safe, but it is a little crazy being home with a 2-year-old. Are you ready to help?
No.
It's not going to be like it always was, but if I see something,
See you later.
see you later.
See you later.
You just got to go with the flow, right? It's the new normal.
I've been getting emails from families all over the island and off the island from families who are thanking me for doing this because it gives them an opportunity to see what everyone else is doing and know that they're all in this together. And I think that's really cool. I really, I like the action that I'm seeing on the social media pages. People are loving the photographs. It's just really nice to see people still able to be together even though we're so far apart.
As of now, Bill has photographed 113 families, and that number is growing. His contribution to the Nantucket community doesn't stop there.
100% of all of the donations that I receive from the families whose photos I take go directly to the hospital. And I initially set a goal of $5,000 to be raised, and just last week we surpassed that goal. I'm kind of hoping before this is all over with, we can raise close to $10,000 for the hospital.
It really just puts a positive spin on what we're all going through, and really a nice chance to see your neighbors or your friends who you might not have seen in a month or more, and just see them together with their families. Everyone's having a lot of family time now, so it's just a really cool way to do it, and a cool way to feature different members of our community and to support the hospital at the same time.
I've noticed so many of the families that I photographed are so happy to be able to get out of the house just for a couple minutes. Like so many people have said this is the highlight of their day when I stop by to take these photos, even if it's only for a couple minutes, because later on, once the photos get posted to the social media pages, they can go online and share with their friends and their family who are off island. And it's just been awesome. It's been really fun, and it's keeping me busy too. So I'm really grateful for everybody.
For more information about the Nantucket Portrait Project, visit Facebook/Nantucket Portrait Project.
We will continue to provide you with updates on the coronavirus and impacts for Nantucket. This week, Nantucket Pulse debuted a wellness segment series hosted by Natalie Seminaro with our local health professionals on Channel 18 and nctv18.org. Please share this with friends and family. It's designed to connect our viewers with local health professionals that can help us take care of ourselves and others around us. It's important that communications remain in place as events continue to unfold and we all remain connected. It's crucial to get the facts from your local news sources such as Inquirer and Mirror, 97.7 ACK-FM Radio, and NCTV Channel 18. Please stay tuned to see a special message to our essential workers from the community.
We want to thank all the essential workers and medical professionals
and first responders and town employees and stop and shop workers and
the teachers who are working remotely, people who are all doing what they can to save us while we do what we can by staying inside.
We are so very appreciative and we'd like to clap for you. Thank you for everything you're doing for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.